Hello, welcome to Living and Learning. I'm Allison Kinnear, and today I wanted to talk about uncertainty because there is so much uncertainty. I don't know if y'all are noticing, there's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. Whether it's about schools, whether it's about jobs, whether it's about our society, there is so much unknown. There's so much ambiguity. There's so much uncertainty. And what happens is our minds don't like this. And so our brains can spin in about 1,000 different directions trying to problem solve, trying to go, okay, well, what if this happens? And what if that happens? And what if this happens? And because there's such a high volume of uncertainty, it becomes really hard for the mind to kind of settle into a solution, to settle into a path forward. So, what happens with so much uncertainty? Yes, planning is helpful, but as we all know lately, there's our plans have been blown up in front of us for a very long time. So we can take some time to plan forward and go ahead, but sometimes those plans cross a line, and that line is one of worry. It's when we start worrying and making up stories and going into the dreaded fantasies of what could be, not like pleasant fantasies, but kind of the horror movie fantasies of what could be. When our brain starts saying, this horrible thing is going to come, and then maybe that horrible thing will happen, and then what if this horrible thing happens? And we can find ourselves spun out, anxiety ridden, having a hard time sleeping, maybe coping by eating too much, drinking too much, whatever your flavor of numbing is. And so I wanted to share with you one of my favorite mantras. It's something that I use when I find myself going down the rabbit holes when uncertainty is high. And I'm no longer planning, but I'm worrying. I'm like telling myself these horrible stories of what could be. And I'll tell you, so it came from this guy. Oh, let me turn it. Thich Nhat Hanh, Body and Mind Are One. It's an audio series. I listened to it several years ago for my master's thesis. And he's a Zen Buddhist monk. And Thich Nhat Hanh talks about suffering and how whatever our suffering may be, and even if it's first world problem suffering, it's still suffering, that whatever the suffering is, the key is to be with the suffering that is and not add worry on top of the suffering. And so, because when we add worry on top of the suffering, our suffering goes up. We suffer more. And so, my mantra during times of uncertainty is just to be with the suffering that is, to be with the suffering, that uncertainty and unknowns and ambiguity, just to be with that and not to add the horror stories and scenarios and the worry that might come with that. Because when we can be with the suffering that is and just take care of ourselves, one of the things Thich Nhat Hanh talks about is to lovingly take care of ourselves as we would a child or a baby. That we need to lovingly care for the part of us that is really freaked out and in suffering in regards to all the uncertainty. And what I find is that when I do that, I have more mental reserves, more mental capabilities to tackle whatever may come. And I'm better able at thinking on the fly. I'm better able at remembering my resources. I'm better able at remembering the tools that can help me navigate the uncertainty. But if I get spun out in a swirl around the stories and the worry and all of that, then I find myself depleted and exhausted and anxious, and I forget that I have resources. I forget that I have things that I can do. So my mantra is to be with the suffering that is. So when I find myself planning a funeral for someone I love in my brain while I'm, you know, taking a shower or driving to the grocery store, then I know I have been sucked into the fantasy land of worry and storytelling and kind of the horrible things that might happen. And it's time for me to pull back and go, wait, let me just be with the suffering that is. How am I suffering right now? So I leave you with that. I give you that as something to think about, to meditate on. Be with the suffering that is. Don't make your suffering worse. It's enough to be with the uncertainty. And when you can be with the suffering that is, you have better resources available to help you, whatever may come your way. I will leave you there. I wish you a wonderful week of living and learning. I will say more in the VIP pass for living and learning because I've got another mantra that I want to share with that group. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you all next week. Take care.